Welcome home, where we provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator here on America's Next. I have DJ Jaime O here with me today. Everybody out there, I want to say thank you for tuning in. Hi, how are you? Whether it be on Roku TV, Apple TV, Android TV, E360, Facebook, or YouTube, it means a lot to me each and every time you tune in, so continue to do so. Jaime O, your mic is muted. Can you unmute your mic? How you doing, sir?
How you doing? How you doing, Cedric?
I'm doing great, man. Looking forward to having a phenomenal show this evening. And thank you for taking the time out to be here with us today.
Absolutely.
We're here to talk about the music industry. Is that correct?
That's right. That's right.
We're gonna dig right into it, man. If anybody out there is into the music industry, if you are familiar, if you are an artist, if you're thinking about getting into the industry, this is a great person to talk to about all things hip hop music and that entire space. But first, let's talk about your upbringing. Where were you born?
I was born in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
And I was raised in the Bronx.
Oh, okay. What was it like for you? What was it like for you growing up in the Bronx? And what decade are we talking about?
Ooh, baby. I'm dating myself, right? I was born in the 70s.
Okay.
And I lived between Crown Heights, Brooklyn, Flatbush, Brooklyn, and uptown, the Northeast Bronx, the Eden Wall section of the Bronx.
Okay. Now, was it tough growing up in the Bronx? What was it like?
It was tough, man. I'm from the biggest projects in the Bronx, the biggest housing projects in the Bronx. And it was tough, man, back in the 70s and in the early 80s, the mid 80s. It was definitely tough growing up in the Bronx, but it was a lot of love in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lot of sense of belonging.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And there was ethics, and
What
there was a
were
lot of fun.
what were some of the things that brought about unity back in those times in those areas? When you talk about the projects, a lot of people make that synonymous with dysfunction, with lack of ethic. Talk about how you guys were managing to be unified there and how you guys managed to have ethics there in the projects.
Well, people back then still understood that it took a village to raise a child, and they lived by that. My grandmother was someone who was a hustler.
Mhm.
So she made dinners. She made ices out of Kool-Aid, and she sold dinners and she sold ices. And a lot of people in the building, in my building specifically, and in the surrounding buildings of the projects, even people from the other side of the projects would come to my grandmother's house to buy ices. And that set an example for me as a hustler.
Mhm.
But it also brought people to my door,
That's right.
and it just made me familiar with the community, made me familiar with other people, made people familiar with me, and everybody in the neighborhood in that projects were familiar with each other, because as big as it is, it's still small,
Mm-hmm.
and as opposed to the outside world. So people understood that their child was being looked after by other adults, and they were to look after other people's children, and that's how you kind of kept things safe to
That's right.
the best degree as you could.
In a project community, one of the things that is lesser known is that people work together. People have a commonality, which is so many of you live in one location, and you form a community that is almost invisible to the outside. People driving by and they say, "Hey, that's a tall building," and if you live in one of those apartments, you're just one of 50, and what a life. But in reality, you're almost looking at a university. Even if you wanted to call it a school of hard knocks, it's an institution. It's a network of people working together with their neighbors next door and across the hall. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
you
definitely.
form, you form several markets in those buildings. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Adversity University
That's right.
is what it's called. And I graduated from that, but the life lessons learned are priceless. It's lessons that you can take with you. You can take with you into corporate America. You can take with you on your journey throughout life, and it just makes you better.
When you participate in the culture of Adversity University and in projects or close, dense communities, USA, and you participate in that culture, would you say that it becomes an actual beautiful place to grow up from time to time?
Oh, very beautiful, very beautiful, very beautiful. It prepares you for the world
Yeah,
because adversity never stops.
that's right.
So it prepares you for the world. It prepares you for all type of situations. So yeah, it's a beautiful, very beautiful thing. And the bonds develop there.
That's
The
right.
positive bonds that you can maintain throughout life. My best friends, well, past my best friend, I call him my brother. Is where we met.
That's right.
There as children.
That's right.
So that's important.
Right now, today, there are markets at play in these areas across the country where some people might take a glance and say, oh, they're disadvantaged. What we're talking about today is how inside of those spaces, there's actually a big advantage because you're working together, you're creating bonds, you're learning how to overcome adversity, you're developing grit. All these things they say money can't buy.
Huh.
And so we're
Well,
establishing we're establishing a culture of achievement that comes out of areas where people might say, "Hey, it's tough to grow up there." You saw the onset of hip hop culture.
yeah, definitely, definitely. That same building that I'm talking about in those same projects, right across the street, still in the projects, but on the other side was a park, and it's a elementary school called 112.
Okay.
And in that park is where I went to my very first jams, right? The jams in the park, right?
What's a jam? What's a jam?
A jam is a party outside in a park where
Right.
the DJ has set up his equipment. Maybe the electric is plugged into a light pole or
Mm,
some other electric outlet, and the DJ is jamming. The DJ is playing the music, and the MC is hosting, and people are dancing in the park. It's an outside party. It's an extravaganza
right.
back then. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's way bigger than you could imagine, and it's all community, right? It's
Yeah.
all community. So this is what I say. As huge as the projects is, everybody know each other because when it's jam at the park, everybody's in the jam at the park.
That's right. That's right. When you got that type of a sensation in the air, it makes you grow up. It makes you optimistic in that moment about
Yeah,
what life can become. Now,
yeah,
those jams, did they influence you to get into the music industry?
absolutely, absolutely. Well, first of all, we're talking about. Well, I'm talking about like 81, right?
Okay.
So
Yep.
I'm very young. I'm very young.
Yep.
Um, and and I'm like, I can't believe this.
Right.
This is amazing. The music is amazing. This is early hip hop.
Yep.
And it's like Run DMC, the Fat Boys, LL Cool. I mean, just Run DMC and the Fat Boys. You're looking like 82, 83. It's just a wonderful, wonderful childhood. It makes for a wonderful childhood.
Right.
All of this Melly Mel, the Sugar Hill Gang, all of this music, and then when you add in the R&B of that time,
Hmm.
let me say the 70s music is the best era of music that we've ever had.
There you go.
This is unchallenged. This is not even up for argument, right?
Yep.
So I'm in the jams in the park, and this is the music that I'm hearing, and it's just a wonderful time to be alive.
That's right. That's right.
Right. That's it. It's just a wonderful. I can't explain it any better. I couldn't have been born at a better time. I couldn't have been in better places. like these jams, you know. And then when
That's
I
right.
would visit back to Brooklyn to family, I would also see the same thing happening.
Yeah.
So imagine being 7, 8, no, 8, 9 years old, 7, 8 years old, and you see something going on like a jam in one borough. To you, another borough is a whole nother world, by the way.
Right.
So when you go back to the other borough, you see the same thing.
Right.
So this thing in your mind became past um, community and local. So in your mind, those two boroughs were my universe.
Right. So you're realizing this is not just happening in your park. This is happening in parks all over. Pretty much, you're thinking this is happening all over the world.
All over the world.
That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, drop a one in the chat if you are with us for the excitement of the birth of hip hop that we're talking about right
Yes,
now.
yes, yes,
See,
yes,
we have to
yes,
celebrate this
yes,
ability of people to create something. And you can feel it coming. It's like an undercurrent. And
yes.
everybody's joining the wave. And when it arrives, it's huge. And that's what we were a part of. When we look back on history, we can say we were a part of the birth, the growth, the crescendo of one of the greatest movements in the history of America, and that's hip hop. Drop a number one in the chat if you're happy about hip hop. Drop a number one in the chat if you're proud of hip hop. Drop a number one in the chat if you are a product of hip hop. Let's go. So I know you guys are walking around and you're looking at each other, and it gets to the point where because this thing is growing legs, you're thinking, hey, are you a rapper or are you a DJ or are you an MC? Which one? Everybody's going to be one of them. Am I right? I mean, you probably
Or,
got
or, or a dancer, a b-boy.
or a dancer. Right. That's right.
I was just dancing. I was a little kid.
Right.
There was nothing. I didn't have the option to DJ. Who was going to let a 7-year-old touch their equipment?
Right. Exactly.
Oh, I didn't have the
Ooh.
chance. I didn't chance to have the chance to be a rapper because I couldn't. I was 7.
Right. That's
You know,
right.
I'm like 7. I'm like, that 8 years old. Like
Right.
I'm not even supposed to be outside.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But but I got permission because the older kids was like, "Can we take Jamie over to the park?" And
What
I'm
were
like,
you thinking? What were you thinking about the nights that you were in your room and you heard them outside jamming, jamming? You hear the beat coming through your walls of the house. What
I
were your
said,
thoughts?
I gotta talk my family into letting me go over there too at this young age.
Right.
Somebody's got to understand that I must be over there with
Right.
them. I can't. The next morning I'm
Right.
hearing about how great it was,
Right.
and I couldn't go because I'm too young. And finally, I just like, Grandma, please, Mom, please let me go over there and enjoy the festivities.
Listen, this is exciting to me. He said, I've got to let somebody know that I must be there.
I must be there, right?
This is the way that we have to continue to subscribe to our culture, something that's become one of the most influential cultures on the globe. We've got to continue to subscribe, continue to be an influence in it, continue to make it into a better thing. So now, what was your relationship with your parents, by the way?
Well, I never knew my father. My father, obviously, I was born in Brooklyn, and I never knew my father. But my mother, I have a great relationship with my mother to this very day. My mother's still alive, and I had a very great relationship with her. She taught me a lot of things through adversity, and through her trials and tribulations, her battle with substance abuse,
Mm,
and but she's taught me a lot of precious uh, things about the world
mhm.
and about myself and about who we are as a people
That's right.
and specifically our bloodline, right? Who my grandfather was, who my grandmother was, and
Mhm.
where we come from. And I had a godmother who um, who stepped in a role of what a father figure might be. Taught
Mhm.
me how to ride a bike, taught me how to swim, took me to Martha's Vineyard every summer. She was from Brooklyn. She was a wonderful person, and her family was a very wonderful people. Encouraged me to um, take focused to literacy,
Okay.
to reading, and they instill reading in me, and they
Mhm.
instill public speaking in me at a very young age, going to the church in Bedford Stuyvesant, and I'm so grateful for that to this day because it allows me to articulate myself in a very effective and proficient way.
When did you realize that hip hop was a place where the reading, the writing, the communication skills were all going to come into play? That none of it was in vain. In fact, it's what could really propel you to a major legacy in music.
Well, I was I was I always would repeat the raps that I heard Run DMC, LL. I knew every rap. I knew every lyric of Rakim. I knew every lyric of Big Daddy Kane. I knew every lyric of Fat Boys. I knew every lyric by heart because I was in love with the music, rap
That's right.
music, and hip hop culture. Totally in love, right? Inundated, just totally indoctrinated by everything concerning hip hop.
Let me ask
Um,
you something. Let me ask you something. Let's talk metaphors. When did metaphors really become important? When did you notice the metaphor, the entendre, you
yeah,
know, and say, oh, that's it. That's what makes a dope lyricist.
Rakim, Rakim. The the people before him were a lot of greats, of course, but Rakim brought something and it changed the energy.
Hmm.
I don't, a lot of people might agree with me. A lot of people might say somebody else, but Rakim changed the. There was a slow, methodic, melodic thing that he did. His voice was an instrument,
Okay.
and and the delivery was slower. So for a young person like me at that age, 1986, 1987, I could literally understand what he was saying because
Hmm.
he was speaking slower, but the words were like powerful, powerful words over those type of tracks.
Right. Right. So knowledge itself was a
Knowledge itself,
theme.
knowledge itself was a huge thing,
Yeah.
was a huge thing because it helped you identify with who you truly were. Knowledge itself was a big deal in
One of
our
the
hood.
things one of the things that I want to hone in on right now is how hip hop is important for so many people who had issues with their parents, whether it be because of drugs or dysfunction in the community. You end up having an identity crisis somewhere along the way. Outside of me and Jamie here, so many people grew up without a father. They might have grew up without a mother. They might have grew up in foster care. We got 400,000 youth in the foster care system today, and there have been thousands of youth in the foster care system over the decades. You end up having an identity crisis. And when knowledge of self is being given to you through hip hop, it helps you to deal with that identity crisis. When somebody like Rakim is talking to you about the power of your limbs and your head, when they combine, you have a synergy of being a magnificent human being. Magnificent, not ordinary, not project kid, not low life, not lower class, magnificent. These are the types of parallels that people began to make through hip hop. And then you start to see artists become sort of like a role model in your life. Do
Yeah.
you see?
Well, well,
Go
if
ahead.
you if you if you if you know who the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is, and they say that he raised a dead people, then what did Rakim do?
Right.
Based on the same teachings.
Right.
It's through music, though. It's the same thing. It's just
Well,
through music.
you know, it's been scientifically explained. It was already proven and bona fide, but it's now been scientifically explained that we learn more in rhythm. We learn more
There
through
you go.
music. And so it's almost like people like Rakim took the messages and made it a more feasible download. You
KRS
know,
One, you must learn.
KRS-One. Yeah.
That was it. That was it for me. It's wake up time after that. So when people say, I'm woke. Well, I've been woke from 88, 89 then.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Let's take a moment to throw out some other groups that were really, waking people up, raising consciousness. I love how this just came out in this conversation, how hip hop is responsible for waking people up.
Public Enemy, X-Clan,
Yeah.
Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah. Lords of the Underground.
I could go on and on, right? We
Yeah.
can do this forever.
Right. That's right. Do you see any artists today who are in that same vein, really adding value to the people over the airwaves?
I think J. Cole.
Okay.
I think J. Cole. There's a plenty of great artists that are adding consciousness to their music. Believe it or not, Kendrick. Kendrick. It's plenty of them, man. It's so many, man. It's so many. Giving Dead Prez gave us a lot, right?
That's right.
I mean, we could go on and on and on, man. So many great artists.
Do you feel that sometimes we get comfortable in our evaluation of hip hop and rap and say, oh, nah, it's not quality music anymore. And that if you actually pay attention, there's always been quality music there.
It's always been quality. Listen, the message, Melly Mel, that verse is pure consciousness.
Yeah.
He was probably the first one that gave you a graphic depiction of hood culture, ghetto, life in the ghetto. But from an enlightening perspective, it's always been there from the very beginning.
That's right. What was middle school like for you?
Middle school was challenging. I bounced back and forth between Brooklyn and the Bronx. I realized that classrooms were always tough for me. I was a short, little, light-skinned guy, skinny, and it was tough, man. But it was a lot of fun, and it was cool. It was cool.
School can be seen as the opposite of hip hop in some lenses. Hip hop represents action, sensation, powerful vibration, liveliness, party, social. School is sort of more structure, more stricture, confinement, focus, paying attention. You being around for the inception of hip hop when it was like this really growing thing, did that make it harder for you to pay attention to school, knowing that hip hop was outside?
You nailed it, man. You put it into great words, man, and I got to give you a lot of credit, man. I ponder this thought often, and yes, I was might have been considered a bad kid because that structure was tough for me. It really was, and I got into a lot of issue with my mother, my godmother, and people who were custodians over me because they definitely didn't understand because of exact the reason that you just said.
That's right. One of the things that we have to begin to accept and digest and overstand, since we mentioned in people like Rakim, is that when movements occur, the people who are part of that movement are almost possessed. A movement is a spiritual thing. And so our environments have to begin to understand when a movement is upon us and adapt to that movement. Right?
Yeah, and you're right about that. But society didn't even believe that hip hop was here to stay. They thought it was trending.
Exactly.
So they weren't going to adapt their antiquated system to accommodate a so-called minority.
That's right. It's possible that the educational systems are still behind hip hop because only just now, maybe in the past 5 years, are we beginning to see the hip hop element in Sesame Street, in the kids cartoons, in your commercials. I mean, I think McDonald's, they figured it out about 10 years ago, but academics itself still has not put its feet in the shoes of rhythm being a key way to transmit information.
Right.
And so, I think that our academic institutions are still competing with the power of music worldwide.
Right.
Um, Talk to me about your ideas about entrepreneurship, social interaction as you entered into high school. Had you become a profound b-boy yet? Did you start moving into other art forms, or were you focused on college?
I'll be honest with you. I didn't make it to high school,
Go ahead.
and I took on that entrepreneurial spirit,
Hmm.
and I entered to a trade program that taught me sheetrocking and some other handy skills. But I got into the streets like most people did in the crack era, and
Okay.
I experienced that for quite some time. Um, and once again, not to glorify it, but that's what this era brought into our communities, and
That's right.
that was a way to earn, to have the things that we saw the rappers have, or the guys that were older than us already doing in the streets, the nice cars, the jewelry,
Hmm.
and so on and so forth. So that's what happened with me temporarily, but that's
Hmm.
what happened to me. I never made it to 10th grade, 11th grade. I eventually did get my GED, and I eventually did go on to become a certified help desk analyst at a great place, a Satone Institute in
Hmm.
Edison. But that's pretty much it. I never made it to high school, but
That's
I embraced entrepreneurship,
hmm
and I studied entrepreneurship, and I own businesses now,
that's right.
and I read multiple business books. I self development books. So, and once again, the music helped me, encourage me to be more of an entrepreneur and things like that. So definitely, I'm behind entrepreneurship, and I'm against children going to the streets and getting caught up in the ills and the pitfalls that the streets can lead you to. It's a dead end.
We're gonna talk about that in the second half of the show. And in this moment right here, you relate to so many thousands of people across America, because the hip hop era, it was upon us at that time. And one thing about the fruits of hip hop was that they seemed like they were instantaneous. And there was no 10-step process to becoming successful in hip hop at that time. It seems like it was like you hit the studio, you make a record, you make money, you're there. All of this could transpire in a week's time. And so a lot of people wanted to cut straight to the chase. And so, without people seeing a clear way to establish themselves in something like hip hop, you got drugs, you got crack, you got easy money all around you. It seems like a lot of people said, let me make this easy money in hopes of redirecting it into a music or hip hop career. Is that does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a lot of people took on that attitude, but it's an American attitude because many immigrants that came to this country, they took on the same attitude. They 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 indulged in things in the streets for profit,
Hmm.
and then they cleaned that money, and they they funneled it into legitimate businesses. That's America.
Right.
It,
So what I'm trying to hone in on here is that this movement arrived, right? Everybody wanted to hop into this movement, which was hip hop, because it was powerful,
yes,
because people were out there jamming. And
yes,
there was no handbook that you read to figure out how to get into the hip hop industry. And so people almost created a marketplace that they could use to get into the hip hop industry. Because I don't feel good working at Dwayne Reed when y'all are jamming outside all day. I want to find a way to be at the jam and make money at the same time.
Yeah, yep,
And
yep. I
so
got you.
it kind of exposed, like hip hop coming exposed the American system for what it really was, which
Yes, yes,
was a paradigm that didn't really match up,
right.
to the movements of the people. Because when hip hop came, there was nothing else in society like it. And I'll give you an example. If you want to be a pharmacist, you know what to do. You finish high school, you go to college, you might get an internship, and then after a couple years, a few years, several years, you become a pharmacist. When it comes to hip hop, you're trying to figure out, how do I get on that ladder? And in doing so, you're outside. You're not inside nobody's institution trying to figure out how to get into hip hop. You're outside. You're at the park. You're at the jam. And so I think that people ended up selling drugs, getting involved in drug culture as a way of getting into hip hop culture. And so maybe we can expound on that after the break, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking to DJ Jaime O. Jones. If you are appreciating this conversation, I'd like to see your comments in the chat. We'll be right back with Jaime O. Jones. America's Next Motivator, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern. America's Next Motivator, hosted by me, Cedric Riley, sponsored by the Pride Empowerment Network and our viewership. And we're back. Jaime, how you feeling out there?
I feel great, man. I feel great. I'm enjoying this conversation.
Absolutely. I'm into this conversation. I think it's extremely relevant. I'm an 80s baby. I was born in 88. And
Woo,
I
that was a
often
big year.
yeah, I often think back and I wonder, what happened? I am smitten by the fact that we always got to mention crack. I'm smitten that we always have to talk about the drug era where, we had so many good times. So many good moments were born out of the 80s and the 70s. And unfortunately, we all had to deal with an epidemic. Some people might even call it a pandemic when you realize that we've been flooded with opiates for the past several hundred years. But what was the drug era like for you? Did you ever realize, I want the music, but I don't want the drugs?
Definitely wanted the music. Like you said, as much as the jams in the park was going on, the drugs were going on outside.
Yeah.
You couldn't come outside and have one without having the other.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, to be honest with you, what kind of pushed the jams out of the park was the gun violence. But the gun violence came in as a result of the influx of cocaine and illegal narcotics.
Since we're talking about the drugs, we see so many shows like Snowfall where you realize that the drugs are coming from the police. Did anybody have those aha moments where they realized, like, we're doing business with the police and we don't even realize it.
Well, some people realized it.
Okay.
Doing business with the police isn't new. Doing business with the police, the people that were selling heroin in the 70s was doing business with the police. Some of them,
Hmm.
I believe so. Some of them. So doing business with the police is not new. The police, and some people would say, are the hugest gang, and
Hmm.
they're a paid gang.
Hmm.
So doing street business with a huge gang, that doesn't sound odd.
Right. So what I'm thinking about right now, my mental image is this, and we have Antonio Rasmus in the building. This guy's a big deal in the music space, in the clothing space, you name it. I'm happy to have you in the building, Antonio. Right now, we're talking about music, which was beautiful. It's giving this phenomenal sensation to people who've been oppressed. They've been dealing with all the toils of America, making it beautiful. And now here comes hip hop. Now we got our own market. This market is making us feel good. It's giving us an opportunity to get on stage and to be a star. So we got music, we got hip hop here, but then we got drugs. And the drugs it's like juxtaposing the music. And so at some point we're like, what's next? And what's next was jail. So it's like what we had was beautiful, and then it took on a financial partner which wasn't healthy, and then it led to jail. So it went hip hop, drugs, jail. That's a messed up triangle, and that's the shape that I want to talk about of things today. Antonio says America was built off drugs. I agree with that. Sadisnia says thanks for the jewels. I think that there's a bit of a problem right there, wouldn't you say? We come up
Oh,
with something, and when
well,
I say we, I'm talking about everybody who wrote lyrics, who put their backs on cardboard boxes to make people feel good at the jam.
yeah, definitely. I had some guys that I was up under because like I said, I was very young. I was only 14 in '88, but I had some guys I was up under that were 19, right?
Mhm,
And they were just the legal age, right?
mhm.
19, 20 years old. And they went to prison for over 20 years due to mandatory minimum sentences.
How many? How many? As we say, dope. Funny how dope is such a prominent term in hip hop culture. How many dope artists ended up going to jail without the world ever hearing their music?
Oh my goodness. Oh, forget
Yeah,
about it, man.
yeah.
The number is astronomical,
That's
to
right.
say the least.
That's right. That's
You
right.
know.
Antonio says we can't let them mold our culture, and that's exactly my next point. Is that in 2021 we're looking at where rap is today, where hip hop is today, and at some point we've got to develop the capacity to say, you know what? I see what happened with hip hop. Hip hop that was waking people up, hip hop that was growing people up, hip hop that was telling you to get off the streets, hip hop that was telling you to have a good time, have nice, clean fun, crack is whack, all those types of things. It got infiltrated with drugs and it led to incarceration. We need
And
to we
death,
need to make
and death,
sure.
uh,
What'd you say?
and death.
And that, yeah, exactly. Now it's a square, right? So you got hip hop, then you got drugs, and then you got jail. That's a triangle, and then you got death. That's a square, right? But the way that we make it go full circle is we take rap back. We get back into the lyrics that wake people up.
Yeah.
We talk about the value of the nuclear family. We talk about the value of us getting back into the park and having a good time. We get back into the conversations about the cipher, how the positive cipher can turn boys into men, how the positive cipher can turn girls into women, how the positive cipher can bring us back into a political standing so that we can take our communities back.
Yeah. Well, you see it happening now. You see a refocus on lyrics. The golden era artists, if you notice, they have been making a resurgence. Nas just won a Grammy.
That's right.
That's a very lyrical, conscious artist.
That's
You
right.
have rest in peace DMX's new album. They're saying is super fire that's about to drop. Those he had a big focus on lyrics.
That's right.
So you see the lyrical side making a resurgence. And you see a lot of the younger new artists, they focusing on lyrics as well.
People gave birth to hip hop, and it's here to stay.
Yep, exactly.
You did you start performing, or did you just start managing artists? What are you doing in music
Well,
today?
well, today I primarily am a marketing executive, primarily. My company, Wealth Nation, along with my partner, we built the company, is going on 9 years old in August. And what we do is we manage artists. Primarily, we consult artists and we help them grow numbers organically through different marketing strategies, and we execute those marketing strategies. It's a really, really great system that we've created because we help artists to monetize, be viable in the system, be marketable, and thus being investable. So we have a great system of success. It not only works for artists, but it works for new executives that we bring on board and we mold. It's a system of integrity, and we really, really help a lot of artists and help a lot of new young executives get into this industry in a way that makes sense.
So we created, and when I say we again, I'm talking about a coalition of a whole lot of people. We created hip hop. We created rap, which is a subculture of hip hop, and right now it is the most powerful musical influence on the globe. And what's in front of us is our responsibility to hold on to it and to take back some control. Like Antonio Rasmus said, we need our own distribution and record companies and our own radio stations. And so that also goes into my next point, which is this: we've got to get back into the era where we identify talent and we support that talent, because that's the only way we can get back to the real hallmarks of what hip hop is supposed to be. If we allow hip hop to become about the numbers, then you'll always have a talented artist who just doesn't have the numbers, and who just doesn't know the math. And I think that that's unfair to the art, to the sport of hip hop. Um, when we allow it to become such a numbers game. I'm not going to sign you unless you have 30,000 followers. I'm not going to bring you on unless you have 100,000 records sold. I mean, I think that that's part of the infiltration when you want the whole game to be in your hands because you're the big guy and I'm the artist. When back in the day the game was in my hands. You wanted me because I was dope, not because I had 100,000 sales or I had 100,000 downloads or 100,000 streams. And so I think that, the further we go into that rabbit hole, I think the more control we lose over our art form. I'm looking for an A&R to come to the park and hear somebody and say, no, you're the next big thing. I'm going to start a fundraiser for you. I'm going to let the people know, listen, let's get him on the radio because he's dope like that. I think we lose hip hop when we keep on saying, where's your numbers at? Because as soon as you have to play the numbers game, then you have to say what they want you to say. So now you can't be the new Cedric or the new Jaime, because you got to be the new trendy guy. And we not looking for trendy when we trying to pay bills. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I totally agree with you. One thing, and when hip hop began, and especially in the early days of the culture, originality is
Ooh,
is what the whole thing was about. You couldn't sound like anybody else and be
that's right.
accepted.
That's
You
right.
were you were ostracized if you copied, and we call it biting. You could
Yeah,
be biting someone's lyrics, or you could be biting someone's style, but it was unacceptable. And now it seems like a lot of artists sound alike.
that's right.
So it's the opposite of what we believed, and that's when corporate stepped in at a certain point, and corporate stepped in because they saw the value proposition that was there, and what type of money could be made. And at the end of the day, we do live in America. It is a capitalistic society.
Right.
So we have
I
to keep that
agree.
in mind.
I agree. But when do we become the capitalist in the first place and say, I'm an artist. I have Jamie next to me. He might not be an artist, but he's a capitalist. Jamie is going to invest in me. I'm not looking for such and such a record company to invest in me because Jamie is investing in me. I think it also goes back into us not, and when I say us, I'm talking about everybody not investing in one another. Why are we not investing in one another?
Well, we don't. First of all, um, there was a time when we didn't have much to invest.
Okay.
We're only, I mean, we're only X amount of years. What? How many years out of slavery, right? Servitude. So when you look at people in the 70s and the 60s, they didn't. Our community, I'm speaking of,
Mm,
they didn't have a lot of money to invest. Welfare was rampant in the late 70s and 80s.
mhm.
So there was no disposable income in the average household to invest in anyone.
Okay.
People were
So
barely surviving.
okay. So let me bring it here. In today's climate, where we don't really know what a stream is worth, we are just finally trying to avoid the 360 deal. We are just finally starting to talk about masters, owning our masters in the beginning of a relationship. Somebody who knows that they're dope, who realizes that the industry is potentially being infiltrated and corrupted by people playing a numbers game, can say, you know what? I'm fire all by myself. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to work with Jamie. I'm going to pay Jamie top dollar to get in his studio. I'm gonna contact Antonio G. Rasmus. I'm gonna pay him top dollar to create my merch. And then I'm going to drop an album, let people on Instagram know that I'm dropping an album. And if you want my album, you can buy it through Cash App for $50. Let's normalize those folks who are
Yeah,
making $40,000 every time they drop through Cash App. See, this is how we take the industry back. This is how you take the industry back. Mind you, the reason why you want to keep control of hip hop is because our people gave birth to hip hop. Hip hop is now the most influential music form on the planet. So we don't want to let that go by playing anybody's numbers game. We got to understand, just like Rakim, Nas, and KRS-One told us, our verses are equations. We giving you the math. Don't try to give us some additional numbers to figure out when I just dropped all of this science on this tape right here. You see what I'm saying? And so what we've got to do is, just like you talked about in the beginning, create a pipeline to bring artists to the market, right? We got to do it in our way. We got to do it in an original way. And we got to take rap back. Invest your money with Jamie O. You said you create marketing services, right?
yes, definitely.
Do you have a website?
Definitely.
What's your website?
OneWealthNation.com. And I also
Okay.
have DJJamieO.com.
So you a DJ too?
Yes.
OneWealthNation.com. So we're starting the what we gonna call it? The Jamie O Hip Hop Challenge. We're starting the Jamie O Hip Hop Challenge right here on America's Next Motivator.
I
And what I
appreciate
mean by
that.
that, oh yeah, 100%. What I mean by that is this. You want to get into the industry, right? Spend some money with Jamie O. He's going to help you get your marketing together. Spend some money with Antonio G. Rasmus. He's in the building right now. He's a special guest. He can help you get your merchandise together. Put your influence out there on Instagram, on Twitter. Let people know that you're dope. Let people know that you're popping. Sell your project through Cash App on Instagram. Let people on Instagram know, listen, I got a project dropping. It costs $50. People going to support you. Now you made $20,000 off your drop. Now you made $10,000. Now you made $40,000. Now the industry is back in your hands.
Well, let me say this, and I appreciate that. I'm going to do more.
Ooh,
can help you get your marketing together.
go ahead.
I under promise and over deliver.
Let's
I'm
go.
going to
Go
help
ahead.
you get your branding together.
Let's go.
I'm going to help you get your distribution together.
That's right.
I'm going to help you get your business together
That's right.
because I'm not just in the music business. I'm in the business of music.
Talk to him.
This is what they really need. They
That's right.
need this business.
That's
I'm
right.
gonna give them the business because they work so hard, but they gotta work smarter. They gotta work smarter, and they gotta understand passive income. They gotta understand residual income
That's
as
right.
it relates to their art, as
That's,
it relates to their craft.
that's right.
So it's a journey, but it's a journey that I'm willing to take with them.
That's right.
And a lot of people who are in my position, a lot of people who are in better positions than me, don't care to take the time to teach them. And Maya Angelou says, we are all teachers if we know it or not. So I own up to my responsibility of teaching in my travels, whatever I'm doing. I'm always willing to take the time to teach. And more importantly, I'm always willing to take the time to learn. And there's an exchange between a guy like me, a seasoned music industry veteran, and a young artist. There's an exchange, and we can learn from each other. So I'm gonna help them get the whole situation correct because I've been doing this a long time.
It
So
sounds
that's
like it sounds like for artists who are either in New York or anywhere around the country who can connect with you through the internet, that people need to contact you and do business with you before they look for the major label.
oh, eh, you nailed it. You get me
Yeah,
because we're not a record label at Wealth Nation. We're an artist development company and a brand management company. We prepare you for one or two roads because there's only two roads. It's independent, monetize on your own, or signing with a major label, having them to monetize you because they have the big machine, but then they're going to own you. They're going to own a lot of what you do, if not all of it.
that's right.
So there's only two roads, but we prepare you for both. We prepare you to how to deal with both in the situation that best benefits you. Anyone in this music industry, anyone, any artist, any executive, inspiring executive, you need to have a conversation with me first. And I say me because it's not just about me, but the reason why I say me, because I can only speak for me, I deal with integrity, right? What I say is what I mean, and I mean what I say. The honesty. If you ever seen American Gangster in the very beginning, it's this line where it says, "What's the first rule in business?" And the first rule in business is honesty. And if you find anybody who thinks differently, that's not really a person you want to do business with. And there are plenty of those type of people in the music industry.
Right.
So take advantage of when you meet someone who really wants to be honest with you and transparent.
That's right.
So that's who I am. I'm grateful to be who I am. I'm grateful for my journey, and I'm really grateful for opportunities like this, platforms like this, because this is not programming. This is enlightenment.
That's right. I appreciate you so much today because I always have an overwhelming feeling of pride when I talk about our music, when I talk about hip hop, and when I talk about rap. And I realize our responsibility to keep a hold of that vehicle, keep a hold of that cultural space. And it's people like you that enable us to keep a hold of that space. And so I'm encouraging people out there, if you're an artist, get in touch with DJ Jamie O. Help him to help you. Allow him to give you the business so that you can be original, so that you can be dope. See, if you're dope, people are going to invest in you. Remember that. It's not the label that makes you, it's you that makes the label. We have a responsibility to make sure that we are getting back in the driver's seat of hip hop and rap. Jaime O is one of the people who can help you get into the driver's seat of your own career. That's the key to moving hip hop forward. That's the key to the future of the resonance that is rap culture. Now, I got 3 questions for you as we round third base here. We've got 25 seconds left in the show. I got 3 questions. 25 seconds. The first, what is survival to you?
Just being true to yourself. That's survival. Just being really true to yourself.
What is success to you?
Success is individually defined. My definition would be a relationship with God, a good relationship with family, and handling your business.
What is greatness to you?
Greatness to me would be just focusing on your dreams, never letting your dreams die. Just really, truly hold on to your dreams. That's greatness because so many people let their dreams perish.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your crown emojis into the chat. Put your crown emojis into the chat. DJ Jaime O. Jones, I want to let you know that we listened to your story today. We appreciate you. We respect you. The way that you didn't let your life end as a result of drugs. You kept your head high. You kept moving forward. And you're here today sharing your story inside this hour on America's Next Motivator. We're giving you respect today while you're still living. And we're giving you a crown today while you can still receive it. Ladies and gentlemen, put your crown emojis into the chat. Ladies and gentlemen, put your crown emojis into the chat. We're giving you a crown today. We are letting you know, letting the world know that you, DJ Jaime O. Jones, you are America's Next Motivator.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate your platform. Cedric, you're an awesome guy. Keep doing what you're doing. It's going to make a difference. It's making a difference in the lives of many.
Yes, sir.
So stay blessed, sir. Keep doing what you're doing. You know how to reach me. I'm around. I'm here if you need me.
Yes, sir. Thanks for stopping by today, all right?
Peace.
Peace. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Each and every episode of America's Next Motivator is going to have something here for you. All you got to do, just like you did today, stop by and pick it up.